Chapter 772. After that, they found out that those people weren't roving bandits, but members of a mercenary army. It was said that at the time, this mercenary army accepted a mission from a certain gang from H City to retrieve something important. Alas, when they got the item and handed it over to the gang, this particular gang actually publicly claimed they didn't receive anything. As there were many organizations and mercenary armies looking for that item, the gang actually ratted those mercenaries out in order to protect themselves from getting into trouble after receiving the item. Everyone thought the item was taken by that group of mercenaries and was hunting them all down. These mercenaries were so miserable thanks to those gangsters, so obviously, they weren't willing to take things lying down. They ran straight to H City and confronted that gang. Unfortunately, these people ended up in the gang's trap and were wiped out by them. Only one or two of them escaped. In her previous life, she overheard the Dark Team guards talking about it. That was how she got to know of this incident. The strange factory was built by foreign gangs to produce all sorts of illegal drugs and distribute it to various countries, including Country Z. The factory was just a very small workshop. They could abandon it at any time. Myanmar H City was already considered a chaotic zone, and there were very few people who would go there, especially for this undeveloped area. So even if they were discovered, they wouldn't be heartbroken about abandoning this little workshop. Bossy, what are we doing here? Spray of Flowers looked around and was confused. Yuanwan only mentioned to them before that she would be taking them out for a task, but she didn't tell them the purpose mainly because she was worried they wouldn't want to proceed. Therefore, Yuanwan decided to tell them only when they arrived at their destination. Look at that small factory. Yuanwan pointed. I see it. Isn't it just a little workshop? What's up? The devotee couldn't see what was so special about it. Don't you find it odd that there's a small workshop here? Yuanwan probed. Odd. The devotee shook his head. What's so odd about it? Isn't it just a building for some foreign or local gangs to break the law? Let's not talk about that first. This time, we're here to put on an act. Yuanwan looked mysteriously at Nameless Nye and the others. Act? This is good. It's better than being a bodyguard. Spray of Flowers nodded continuously. I think being a bodyguard is better. The devotee disagreed. Iceberg Man? ? Nameless Nye was annoyed. Shut your trap. Following Nameless Nye's outburst, Spray of Flowers and the devotee immediately shut their mouths. As for the Iceberg Man, this request was probably the best thing he heard. Famous Yi, why aren't there any cameras around if we're acting? Nameless Nye waited for the devotee and Spray of Flowers to be completely silent before he looked around. There's no production team either. Cameras, lights, and most importantly, where's the stage team that takes care of our lunches? Who said those kinds of things were necessary for acting? Yuanwan rolled her eyes at Nameless Nye. This guy is actually only concerned about the food. We don't need them? Nameless Nye furrowed his brows. Do we? Yuanwan asked him in return. You're the boss, you call the shots. If you say we do, then we do. If you say we don't, then we don't. But Famous Yi, you have to increase our pay for changing our roles all of a sudden. Nameless Nye looked at Yuanwan and chuckled lightly. Chapter 773. Right. Captain's right. We agreed to be your bodyguards before, and now you want us to act. You have to increase our pay. Spray of Flowers hurriedly chimed in and nodded. Bossy, you've got to increase our pay by at least $200 each, the devotee said. Bullshit, $200. Nameless Nye glanced at the devotee, then looked at Yuanwan. I think you should increase our pay by at least $500 each. I'll increase each of your pay by 1,000. Yuanwan laughed. Upon hearing what Yuanwan said, Nameless Nye stepped forward and held Yuanwan's arm. Famous Yi, you said it yourself, You'll increase each of our pay by 1,000, and there are 5 of us here. So that makes $5,000. You can't go back on your word, all right? Spray of Flowers. Bossy is so generous. Devotee. Bossy is good taste. Brick-moving foreigner. Good taste. Iceberg Man. ? Yuanwan immediately pulled her hand back, speechless. However, I have to make it clear that you guys must act well and can't be reckless or unruly. Famous Yi, you can put your heart in your stomach? I'll let you see what it means to be a true acting king, Nameless Nya said proudly. It's just acting. As the saying goes, life is like a movie. It all depends on how you act. Everyone is a great actor. Yuan. She was just worried they would be too into their characters and overdo it. Okay? Come over, listen to Boss Yi. Act more serious. Nameless Nya waved at Spray of Flowers and the others. The four of them immediately gathered around Yuan. Have you guys heard of the Rose of Death? Yuan looked at all of them mysteriously. This group of 5 was quite skilled and should certainly have quite a bit of experience, so Yuan believed these people should have heard of the Rose of Death. At the mention of the Rose of Death, the devotee and brick-moving foreigner roared with laughter instantly, leaving Yuan puzzled. Rose of Death, Boss Yi. Even you've heard of the Rose of Death, huh? Very soon, the devotee stopped laughing. What is it? The Rose of Death is so famous. It's not strange that I've heard about them, right? Yuan asked. Haha, Captain. Should we tell Famous Yi the truth? The devotee looked at Nameless Nya. After getting Nameless Nya's approval, the devotee laughed. Boss Yi, I'll just tell you the truth. There is no Rose of Death on this earth. There's no Rose of Death? Yuan was taken aback by what the devotee said. There's no Rose of Death. Are they insane, or am I the crazy one? Then Yuan revealed a hint of contempt towards the devotee. Just admit it if you don't know who they are. Boss Yi, I'm speaking the truth. In this world, there's no such thing as the Rose of Death. They were simply made up. The devotee explained in a serious tone. Made up? As if Yuan would believe that. How could this amount of power be fabricated? Previously, when they were overseas, she managed to save the Sea family by disguising herself as the Rose of Death. If it was made up, then even the Sea family had no idea? Everyone else in the outside world had no clue about the truth either? Why would we lie to you? The Rose of Death really doesn't exist. Its origins merely came from a couple of manuscripts. That's all, Spray of Flowers said firmly. Manuscripts? Yuan became more suspicious. What are they saying? Chapter 774 Actually, The Rose of Death was just a book our captain's father wrote when he was younger. He roughly described a power like that and stopped writing after that. Then the captain was born and he thought the Rose of Death was pretty interesting. So he continued writing and described the Rose of Death in more detail when he was younger, such as how the members of the Rose of Death wore windbreakers with a subtle rose print on them and silver masks. All these details were written when the captain was a few years old. The leader of the Rose of Death, Black Widow, who loved men and was bloodthirsty, was also made up by the captain. The devotee laughed. After that, the Nya family had a break-in and they lost the manuscript. It was at that point that the story of the Rose of Death spread. From 10 people to hundreds, and today, everyone thinks the Rose of Death really exists. It's hilarious. Everybody claims it's true, but who has really seen them? Spray of Flowers waved his arms as he told the story. After hearing how the Rose of Death came about, Yuan froze and was in disbelief. That terrifying organization is actually a character produced from a stack of manuscripts, and it was written by Nameless Nya when he was how old? Thinking it through, Yuan still thought it didn't quite make any sense, and she looked at Nameless Nya and the others suspiciously. You simply lost a stack of manuscripts, and you want me to believe this is true? Do you think I'm a fool? Fortunately, Nameless Nya and his father wrote about the Rose of Death. What if they wrote about a superhuman? Huh. Boss Yi, you can't put it that way. If it was some ordinary folks, I guess they wouldn't have even bothered looking at a manuscript when they broke into a house, right? But you need to know that this manuscript went missing from the Nya household in Europe, so nobody questioned its credibility at all. Furthermore, Old Master Yi and Captain didn't use the standard story writing style to describe the Rose of Death. They wrote it in the form of a recount, which made everyone believe it completely without any doubt, the devotee said. This is all in the past. Let's not talk about it. Anyway, didn't I ban everyone from talking about the Rose of Death? Nameless Nya said. Nameless Nya never thought those few words he penned when he was little, this power he fabricated, would become a real person in other people's eyes. Nameless Nya didn't seem to be lying, and judging by the expressions of the devotee, Spray of Flowers, and the others, Yuanwan couldn't help but believe their words. She was extremely surprised. Who exactly is this Nameless Nya? Just a manuscript that he and his father wrote spread throughout the world and actually caused everyone to believe it. Even the C family hadn't suspected a thing. In addition, from what Nameless Nya said just now, he stopped the news of the Rose of Death from spreading, and coincidentally, the Rose of Death vanished without a trace in the last 10 years. There was no news about them aside from the time when she disguised as their leader. Which part of this group before her was so sacred? How could they have such great influence? But Yuanwan really couldn't understand one thing. With their skills, why did they have to worry about having enough food and warm clothes? Anyway, this group of people wasn't simple, so Yuanwan didn't completely believe their words. Who knows, they might be trying to con her, but Yuanwan couldn't really think of a reason why Nameless Nya would want to con her. Chapter 775. Oh right, Bossy. Why did you ask about the Rose of Death? Spray of Flowers asked out of curiosity. Yuanwan thought about it before she replied. This time, we're going to act as this organization, the Rose of Death. I'll be the Black Widow, and all of you will act as the members of the Rose of Death. Upon hearing what Yuanwan said, all of them were stunned. She wants us to act like the Rose of Death? Previously, Nameless Nya had actually forbidden any news regarding the Rose of Death from leaking out. Even Old Master Nya agreed his manuscript caused this groundless organization, so he supported Nameless Nya's decision. And right now, this famous he actually wanted the original creator, Nameless Nya, to act as the rubbish Rose of Death. Bossy, what's so great about the Rose of Death? How about we act as my Nya family? My Nya family is much better than the Rose of Death in every way. What do you think? I'll act very naturally and give you a good price. Nameless Nya walked to Yuanwan and did his sales pitch. Hearing that, Yuanwan looked at Nameless Nya like she was looking at a fool. Go on. Keep bragging. Better than the Rose of Death? No way. Just act as the Rose of Death. Yuanwan was firm and didn't allow Nameless Nya to negotiate at all. Whether the Rose of Death existed or not, she wouldn't change her plan. If this Rose of Death organization and leader Black Widow were all just made up and didn't exist at all, that was better. Then it meant that nobody had seen the Rose of Death before. Maybe she should take this name, Black Widow? Then, I'm not acting. Nameless Nya shook his head adamantly and seemed like he wouldn't budge. Oh, I'll just tell your nephew that you hired me and my boyfriend to disguise as his parents then, Yuanwan said indifferently. Don't. Famousy. We can talk things through. When Yuanwan brought the little devil up, Nameless Nya broke out in a cold sweat instantly. Nameless Nya was neither afraid of the heavens nor earth. He was only afraid of one thing, his nephew. Then are you acting or not? Yuanwan smiled and looked straight at Nameless Nya. Yes, I'll act. I'll act, all right. Nameless Nya was helpless and could only agree. Even if Yuanwan changed her mind at the last minute and decided not to pretend to be the little devil's mother, the threat of telling the little devil would also be enough to choke him, much less actually telling the little devil the truth. Hence, Nameless Nya thought it through, and under immense pressure, he finally decided to give in. Captain, we'll be wearing the silver masks anyway. Nobody will know you're the one acting. The brick-moving foreigner was very witty and analyzed the situation for Nameless Nya. That's right. Nameless Nya slapped his thigh. We'll be wearing the silver masks anyway. With that said, Nameless Nya looked around. Before Spray of Flowers could continue, Yuanwan suddenly made a silent gesture. Shortly after, Nameless Nya and the others looked in the direction of Yuanwan's line of sight. A few armed men walked out of that factory. Those armed men were guarding the factory outside and kept looking around them. Look. After some time, Yuanwan pointed towards the bottom left. A couple of off-road vehicles slowly stopped behind the factory, and about a dozen people came out from them. These people were all dressed in camouflage gear, and were probably the mercenaries Yuanwan heard about. At this moment, those people were creeping toward the factory. Hold it! The armed men guarding the factory saw those mercenaries. Chapter 777 AI yeah. They found us. What should we do? It's all your fault. I already said to stop the car further away. The car is right beside the factory. Any human being would hear the noise. Among this group of mercenaries, there was a young, extremely cute and sweet-looking little Lolita. I stepped on the brakes, but the car wouldn't stop. So what could I do? Huh? I already said I can't drive. Yet all of you forced me to. Actually, I wanted to simply knock them all down. A lovable fatty spoke with apparent grievances. You can't even drive a car and you eat so much every day. What a waste of resources. A very good-looking man with long hair picked his nails and sneered. They found us the second we got out of the car. What should we do? What should we do? Then the good-looking long-haired man immediately punched the fatty in the chest. Whoa, could you not use your little fist to punch my chest? The fatty said, displeased. Baby, so what if they saw us? With Changji around, what's there to be afraid of? Standing in front of the long-haired man was a bulky and bearded man. Hearing that, the long-haired man leaned on the chest of the bearded man. Changji, you're the best. Much better than those darn fatties. With Changji around, I'm not afraid at all. Haha, baby, you don't have to be afraid at all. Changji is here. Even if the ceiling collapses, I'll be there to hold it up for you. The bearded man grinned. Oh my, the two of you should be more mindful. This is a public space. The fatty looked at the bearded man in contempt. Before the bearded man could say anything, an old man slowly emerged from this group of mercenaries. The old man looked glum, and his eyes were shrouded in darkness. Stop this nonsense and take care of those few dogs first. Let me do it. Let me do it. The little Lolita leaped out and strode forward. At this moment, the armed men guarding the area looked at each other when they saw a cute and sweet-looking little Lolita walking toward them from the group of mercenaries. Aya, big brothers, you guys look really ugly, but all of you can choose a relatively cuter way of dying. I'll list them: getting poisoned, getting shot, a hand grenade explosion, getting bombarded, or getting killed by a dagger. What do you guys think? Which is better? The little Lolita looked at those armed men and giggled. Courting death, huh? In an instant, those men had their guns aimed at the little Lolita. However, before their fingers could pull the trigger, there was a flicker of cold light in the air. Pop! Pop! SK! Those armed men couldn't even scream in time, and a dagger was thrust into the space between their brows. The little Lolita clapped her hands and smiled innocently. I think that being killed by a dagger is the cutest. Oh? Immediately after the Lolita spoke, the armed men fell to the ground. What do you think? Amazing, right? After the little Lolita took care of those armed men, she turned around and looked at the group of mercenaries behind her. She bent over and made a funny face. Wow, I think I should have just driven over them just now. The fatty stepped forward and laughed. Stop talking crap. The old man waved. Today, we must find that item and kill them all no matter what. The group of mercenaries then slowly made their way into the factory. Chapter 778. This isn't about the money at the hilltop. The devotee turned to Yi Wanwan after he saw the group of mercenaries entering the factory. Boss, that's a bunch of exotic people, huh? I've never seen such strange mercenaries before. Spray of Flowers nodded. A bunch of fools, the brick-moving foreigner said in a serious tone. Iceberg man, and at this moment, the corners of Yi Wanwan's lips started twitching. Who gave them the courage to call other people weird? Aren't they the weirdest bunch? Bossy, did you bring us here to act in a show or watch a show? The devotee was confused. Nameless Nye and the others still had no idea of Yi Wanwan's plan. It's like this, our mission this time is to save that group of mercenaries, Yi Wanwan explained. Save that group of mercenaries? Spray of Flowers was doubtful. Why should we rescue those mercenaries out of the blue? Bossy, those mercenaries seem to be going in to wreck the place. Do they even need us to rescue them? The devotee asked. Nameless Nye and the others didn't know, but Yi Wanwan knew very well how much they needed help. In her previous life, this group of mercenaries was mostly wiped out at this very spot. There were several highly trained experts keeping watch inside that factory, awaiting their arrival. How troublesome. I don't want to rescue them, Spray of Flowers said. Brick-moving foreigner. I'm hungry. Feel like eating shit. Iceberg Man. Each person gets an additional $1,000. Yiwanwan had no choice but to resort to this. Spray of Flowers and the devotee's eyes glistened instantly. Devotee. Bossy, how do we rescue them? Spray of Flowers, we must save them. How could we simply fold our arms and watch them die? Is this our way of doing things? Huh? Wouldn't it hurt our consciences? How would we sleep at night? Brick-moving foreigner. We must rescue them. This isn't about the money. Nameless Nya. We'll listen to Bossy. Iceberg Man. Yuanwan stepped forward and told everyone her plan. At the same time, there was the sound of gunfire followed by a miserable howl coming from the factory. Not long after, those mercenaries who snuck into the factory were all forced outside. You guys dare to come back, huh? A middle-aged man looked at the group of mercenaries and sniggered. You bastard. You hired us at a high price to obtain that piece of good. After we completed our task and handed it to you, you said you never gave us this task at all and pushed the blame onto us. The old man looked at the middle-aged man coldly. HNG, that's your stupidity. The middle-aged man sneered. Never mind about that. I can't be bothered to waste my time speaking to people who are going to die. I've hired Li San Yi and Dr. Skeleton. I'd like to see who'll be the dead one here. The middle-aged man turned to a white-haired, elderly doctor dressed as a young man and smiled widely. Gentlemen, I have to trouble the both of you today. Upon hearing that, the white-haired, elderly man waved. Since I've taken your money, I'll definitely do the work for you. This group of mercenaries will die here today. Seeing these two people, the mercenaries furrowed their brows like they were looking at incoming enemies. The white-haired elderly was Li Sanyi, and the young man was Dr. Skeleton. These two people were great and well-known killers. Mind your own business. One of the mercenaries scowled. However, the moment he said that, Li Sanyi was provoked as he raised his hand. The mercenary had no idea what happened. He started spitting fresh blood from the slap and his body was flung across the room like a broken kite. Chapter 779. Unrealistic acting, ha ha ha. You're the amazing Li Sanyi indeed. Boss Zhou nodded continuously. At this moment, the elderly mercenary was secretly thinking of a counterattack. This boss Zhou already knew they would return and had placed traps in the factory. They were confronted by firearms and weapons the moment they stepped in. At this moment, with over 10 guns pointing at them, if they weren't tied with explosives around their bodies, they would have already been killed. Changji, what should we do? We're going to die, the long-haired guy cried. Baby, don't be afraid. With Changji around, you don't have to be scared at all. Who do they think they are? Huh? The bearded man sneered. However, the second he said that, he received a brutal tight slap from Li Sanyi. How dare you, old man? Try touching me again if you dare. The bearded man glared ferociously at him. Slap. Upon hearing that, Li Sanyi gave him another slap. You. The bearded man clenched his fists. You're very obedient. Since you're such a good boy, I won't make things difficult for you. Changji, you're amazing. You're so calm and generous. The long-haired man was basically worshipping him. HNG, of course, baby. If this old thing wasn't so obedient, I would have punched him to his death already. But seeing that he's so old and obedient, I'll let him off. The bearded man ridiculed him. Oh my, with death approaching, you're still showing off, huh? The fatty looked at the bearded man, shocked. Aya, how annoying we've been played. This isn't cute, not cute, I don't want to die. The little Lolita whined, in tears. All of you must die right here today. The doctor dressed as a young man curled his lips and looked very devilish with a shiny surgical scalpel swinging in his hand. Before the young man could continue, he saw something on the nearby hilltop from the corners of his eyes. At that moment, the smile on his face froze and he rubbed his eyes instinctively. Then he continued looking towards that hilltop. All he saw was a woman wearing a black vintage hat. Her face was covered by a black veil as she slowly made her way down the hill and walked towards them. Behind that woman were 5 people wearing silver masks and dressed in black. Judging by their sizes, they should all be men. Rose of Death? Terror appeared within that young man's eyes instantly. He was in disbelief. That style of dress was certainly the attire of the rumored Rose of Death. Although there hadn't been any news of the Rose of Death for nearly 10 years, it was said that the Rose of Death had reappeared in the nearby country B. Boss Zhou, Li Sanyi and the others were completely stunned as well. Aya, that attire. Rose of Death? The little Lolita widened her eyes and couldn't believe it. The elderly mercenary and everyone else was flabbergasted too. Chapter 780. Did you just hit me? Old thief, I'm a member of the Rose of Death. Have you guys never heard of the Rose of Death? Nameless Nya howled. Seeing how Nameless Nya was letting himself go and being so expressive, Yuan only wished to turn back time, allowing her to pick a different actor. She suddenly realized Gong Su's acting wasn't so bad after all. Compared to this, Gong Su's acting could be perceived as godlike. At this moment, the iceberg man placed the coffin on the floor and laid in it. There was a loud bang as he shut the coffin tight. Yuan, I should have expected this. Currently, only the devotee and spray of flowers were in front of Yuan. It could be considered a past for these 2 actors. Old thing, let them go right now. I, Rose of Death, will spare your lives. Nameless Nya lost himself in his character and was unable to free himself. At that point, Yuan really wanted to step forward and ask Nameless Nya if this was what he envisioned when he was writing about the members of the Rose of Death. The group of mercenaries stared blankly at Nameless Nya. Is this really a member of the Rose of Death? You old undead thing. Didn't you hear what I said? Act accordingly. Otherwise, your father will stab you to death. My blade goes in red and comes out clean. Nameless Nya yelled. Captain, it's my blade goes in clean and comes out red. You made a mistake. Spray of flowers corrected him. Hearing that, Nameless Nya nodded and continued. That's right. My blade goes in clean and comes out red. You're the Black Widow from the Rose of Death? Li Sanyi stared at Yuan, intrigued. He didn't care about Nameless Nya's request at all. Yuan, can I choose not to talk? Outrageous. You old thing, who do you think you are? How dare you speak to our boss like that? Our boss loves men in showers and fresh blood. Are you not afraid at all, huh? Nameless Nya shouted. Ha. The doctor dressed as a young man sneered. I thought it was really the Rose of Death, but in the end, it's a bunch of lunatics. The mercenaries looked at Yuan and shook their heads. They really thought the Rose of Death had arrived, but now it seemed like, you said you guys are the Rose of Death? Li Sanyi looked at Nameless Nya and scoffed. Old thing, you still don't get it? Nameless Nya asked. You said you're a member of the Rose of Death? The corners of Li Sanye's lips lifted. Old thing, isn't it obvious enough? Nameless Nya sneered. I heard that every member of the Rose of Death is highly skilled. Since this is the case, why don't we have a little spar? Let me see if this rumor is true, Li Sanyi laughed. I don't want to fight you. It's not nice if I hurt you, Nameless Nya said. Haha, Li Sanyi, they're just a bunch of lunatics. Don't bother with their motives, just kill them all. A menacing grin appeared on the young doctor's face. Sure. Li Sanyi nodded. Then he raised his right arm and the shadow of his palm flashed across. In the next second, Li Sanye's palm landed on the chattering Nameless Nya's lower abdomen. Nameless Nya kept quiet all of a sudden and looked at his abdomen instinctively. Oh! A tinge of doubt appeared in Li Sanye's eyes. This guy is all right? You. Did you just hit me? Nameless Nya slowly removed the mask from his face. His ice-cold eyes looked straight at the elderly man. It was just one look, yet it seemed to be able to sink a person into a hole. Chapter 781. Amazing. Big bro Nameless Nya looked indifferent. His eyes were unmoving. Captain, he hit you first? Spray of flowers hurriedly said. Li Sanyi scoffed and hit Nameless Nya in his abdomen once again. This time, he used almost all his strength. However, Li Sanyi was left in disbelief. This man before him didn't even wince, and after receiving this blow from him, he didn't have the slightest injury at all. You are really courting death. A cold light flashed in Nameless Nye's eyes. Nobody saw what moves he made, but in the next second, he grabbed Li Sanyi by the neck. This enormous strength left Li Sanyi without any room to retaliate. This well-known killer was akin to a newborn baby in Nameless Nye's hands. Nameless Nye grabbed him by his neck and slowly lifted him off the ground. Li Sanyi's face turned red. His eyes filled with blood vessels, and both his arms flailed wildly towards Nameless Nye. If an ordinary person had to endure those blows, he or she would have been shocked to death. However, it didn't have any effect on Nameless Nye at all. The elderly mercenary looked at Nameless Nye, completely stunned. He knew very well how powerful Li Sanyi's blow was, and the mercenaries might not be able to defeat him even if they combined their strength together. But in that young man's hands, Li Sanyi couldn't even fight back. You're courting death. That young doctor's scalpel was immediately tossed in Nameless Nye's direction. However, before it could get close to his body, Nameless Nye caught the scalpel with his left hand. Interesting. Nameless Nye glanced at the young doctor before retracting his gaze. I didn't want to cause any trouble at first, but you guys are apparently a little too ignorant. Nameless Nye spoke before he used more strength. The cracking of bones resounded. Everyone widened their eyes as they watched Li Sanyi's neck getting crushed by Nameless Nye. This scene made everyone gasp. Just now, everyone was doubting whether or not this group of people was truly the rumored Rose of Death. But at this current moment, everyone was suspecting that even if it was the rumored Rose of Death, they shouldn't be so terrifying. Swish! Nameless Nye's right arm waved and simply flung Li Sanyi's corpse over 100 meters away. Following that, Nameless Nye strode over to the doctor dressed as a young man. At this moment, the young doctor was flustered. It's been a long time since anybody dared to attack me. Nameless Nye looked at that young doctor and spoke coldly. Upon seeing the enraged Nameless Nye, Spray of Flowers and the devotee looked at each other. Those people really didn't know better and dared to attack their captain. Truly, the ignorant knew no fear. Yi Wanwan looked at Nameless Nye, surprised. She didn't expect Nameless Nye had this side to him, especially the frightening strength and vigor Nameless Nye displayed just now. Even Yi Wanwan was breaking out in a cold sweat. That wasn't the Nameless Nye she knew. He was a freak with a formidable aura around him. Come over. Nameless Nye looked at the young doctor and chuckled lightly. What do you want? The young doctor knitted his brows and looked at Nameless Nye. Swish! Suddenly, a sound echoed throughout the area. In the next second, the entire place fell into a dead silence. All they saw was Nameless Nye's palm appearing out of nowhere. The young doctor didn't know what happened as his entire body flew 10 meters away. Slam! The young doctor's body smashed the gigantic pillar in front of the factory into pieces. Chapter 782. Everyone watched this scene unfolding before their eyes like they had seen a ghost. The middle-aged man who was known as Boss Zhou was speechless. Is that person a monster in human skin? Spray of Flowers and the devotee looked at one another. They didn't expect that acting as the Rose of Death would cause such a big ruckus. In a place like this, their captain was actually serious for once. Very soon, the gray clouds dissipated and they realized the doctor dressed as a young man was already long dead. At this very moment, Boss Zhou and everyone else's complexions were deathly white. They weren't doubtful of these people who suddenly appeared anymore. These people were so terrifying that they must be the legendary Rose of Death. Boss Zhou obviously knew of the existence of the Rose of Death, but he didn't know they were so strong and just one member was able to finish off Li Sanyi and Dr. Skeleton. Whether it was Li Sanyi or Dr. Skeleton, they were both top-notch, well-known killers in the region and were very powerful. But even so, they couldn't retaliate at all in the hands of the legendary Rose of Death and were as weak as newborn babies. Then Nameless Nye looked towards the ruins and sized up the Dr. Skeleton he had beaten to death. I didn't control my strength properly and went a little too hard, Nameless Nye muttered. The brick-moving foreigner, devotee and the others gave him a look that read as if we would believe you. He obviously was itching to fight, yet he made it sound so dignified. Currently, the elderly mercenary and everyone else was looking at nameless Nya in extreme fear. They had also heard of the Rose of Death, but even the leader of the Rose of Death, Black Widow, shouldn't have been so terrifying. Just now, a lowly member of the organization displayed such brutal strength. Everyone was trembling in terror. Changji, are you as strong as that man? The long-haired man looked at the bearded man and asked. The bearded man remained silent for some time and said, Baby, that's nothing. Have you seen Changji when serious? Let me tell you, when I'm serious, I'm much stronger than that guy. That guy is probably about only half as strong as me. The long-haired man had a look of adoration. Changji, you're amazing. I'm so blessed. Ha ha ha, of course, baby. Let me tell you, if it wasn't for that guy attacking so abruptly and killing that Dr. Skeleton and Li Sanyi, I would have killed them myself. Do you think I'm bragging? Changji never brags. The bearded man sneered. Oh my, this cow is bragging up to the heavens, as if he doesn't brag. The fatty turned to the bearded man. Among all of them, the bearded man was the one who bragged the most. Yi Wanwan concealed her twitching lips. She looked at Boss Zhou and said indifferently, I'm taking this group of mercenaries away. Do you have any objections? No, not at all. I don't have any objections at all. Facing Yi Wanwan's question, Boss Zhou looked as if he had seen a ghost and shook his head continuously. After all, that woman was Black Widow, the boss of this perverted group. Just an ordinary member of the Rose of Death was already so scary, much less the Black Widow herself, right? Chapter 783 Boss, Zhou swallowed and said weakly, Then can we leave? Yi Wanwan casually looked at her nails. Wait a minute. The droplets of cold sweat on Boss Zhou's forehead trickled down. Is there anything else? What have you seen today? Yi Wanwan asked. Boss Zhou went blank for a second before he hurriedly replied, I didn't see anything at all. I didn't see anyone. After hearing his answer, Yi Wanwan lifted her hand. Boss Zhou and the others wet their pants in terror and hurriedly ran away. Yi Wanwan initially thought they had to come up with more twists and turns. She hadn't expected that Nameless Nye's ultimate performance would overturn the entire place and dominate those people. After those people left, Yi Wanwan said to the group of mercenaries, All of you, follow me. They looked at one another and hadn't returned to their senses from the attack. When they heard her, they were stunned and couldn't react to what she said. WH1FO follow you. The long-haired man went blank for a second before he burrowed himself into the bearded man's embrace. Changji, I don't want to be captured and become a boy toy. The bearded man stepped forward instantly. Just take me prisoner if you have to. Yi Wanwan, who gave you guys the confidence, huh? Don't you guys have a clue how you look like? Spray of flowers bellowed. Outrageous. How dare all you repulsive people even dream of becoming our queen's boy toys? The devotee nodded. You have to be at least as good-looking as me. The fatty said weakly, then why? At this moment, the elderly man's face turned gloomy and he said, May I know if Madam is also looking for those goods? Madam, please check properly. We accepted the mission from a secret society, got hold of those goods, and successfully delivered them. Who knew that they would tell everyone that we kept the goods and got us to take the blame, causing us to be chased by everyone? I'm very aware of the situation, Yi Wanwan said plainly. Right now, I'm giving all of you two options. 1. Follow me and obey my orders, and I will make sure you guys are safe. 2. I believe all of you wouldn't want to choose this option. 1. The fatty made the decision immediately. The second option is definitely death. Must we even consider it any further? Not only did they escape death, but they even got protection from the legendary Rose of Death. It was simply a blessing from the heavens. Obviously, they'd agree to it. When the other 4 people heard that the other party wanted to recruit them, they were stunned. After they were set up by the gang, the mercenary union shut them out and everyone was after their lives. They had nowhere to run. Everything went smoother than Yu Wanwan expected this time, and she managed to reach her goal. After Yu Wanwan returned, she let Feng Xian and 11 help these people settle down, then she gave Nameless Nya and the others their pay. The devotee couldn't help but ask, "Boss, you disguised as the Rose of Death. Weren't you afraid of being exposed?" Yu Wanwan looked at him calmly. "Who said it was a disguise?" Devotee. "Huh? What do you mean?" Yu Wanwan. "The Rose of Death was made up, wasn't it?" Devotee. "That's right." Yu Wanwan. "Since the Rose of Death doesn't exist and nobody has seen them before, why can't I be the Rose of Death?" Devotee. "That works? Spray of flowers. Boss, you're smart. Certainly, you're destined for great things." Chapter 784. The next day. The boss of Glittering Jewels Pavilion, Wan Hiyun, warmly invited Yu Wanwan and the others over for a meal. The news of Glittering Jewels Pavilion producing an imperial jade had spread across the entire industry, and their reputation improved dramatically. On the other hand, Huangshi Xian was fighting with Hou Feng because if it wasn't for Hou Feng stopping him, Huangshi Xian would have been the one who bought that batch of stones from Wan Hiyun instead. Wan Hiyun used all the money he earned from Yu Wanwan to buy raw stones, and within just 2 days, everything was sold out. His luck really improved. This batch of raw stones produced decent results, and Glittering Jewels Pavilion was no longer known as the Jinxed Workshop anymore. "Miss Yi, if it wasn't for you, my Glittering Jewels Pavilion would probably have closed down. I must give you a toast." Wan Hiyun raised his glass and spoke gratefully. "Boss Wan, you're too kind. I can't really drink, but I can use tea instead. I wish you lots of prosperous business." "Thank you. Thank you for your blessing." Wang Hu, who was at the side, laughed. "Ever since Miss Yi got the Imperial Jade from our store, our luck has really changed. Miss Yi, you've brought good luck and fortune to us." Once they were done with the meal, everyone returned to the hotel. Yu Wanwan arrived at the suite to bid farewell to the group of 5. While they were speaking, a familiar ringing resounded. It was a video call. Yu Wanwan raised her brows. "Captain Ye, aren't you going to answer the call?" Nameless Nye's face turned pale. He grabbed his hair and went in circles around the room. "Damn, what's going on? The frequency isn't right. Didn't the little devil call the day before? Why is he calling again?" The other 4 people looked at one another, then shrunk to a corner and pretended like they didn't exist. Nameless Nya was in a prayer position before he answered the call. After that, he said in a single breath, "I haven't found your father and mother, but your uncle. I will definitely find them before the deadline. Otherwise, I will castrate myself." "Why are you so nervous?" "I just wanted to take a look at you." The little devil's indifferent voice came through the receiver. Nameless Nya swallowed. "Wanted to take a look at me? Why does he sound so darn terrifying? Are you alone?" The little devil glanced behind him. "No. The others are here too." Nameless Nya was in a slight daze. "And?" The little devil nodded expressionlessly. He then asked, "Have you had dinner?" Nameless Nya was so frightened that he nearly tossed his phone away. The little devil actually cares about my well-being? Shit. What does this little ancestor want? Nameless Nya didn't have a choice and didn't dare to hang up either. So he replied, I've eaten, ancestor. Is anything the matter? Can I chat with you?" That little devil pursed his lips and looked extremely frosty. How does this even look like he wants to have a chat? Little devil's way of torturing people has changed again? Nameless Nya was going nuts from the torture. "Sure, I don't want to chat with you at all right?" Seeing that Nameless Nya still hadn't hung up after some time, Yu Wanwan coughed lightly and went to open the door. "Captain Nya, if there's nothing else, I'll get going first." Nameless Nya hurriedly said, "Oh, all right." When Nameless Nya spoke to Yu Wanwan, his phone shifted a bit and the little devil caught a glimpse of Yu Wanwan on the video call. After Yu Wanwan left, Nameless Nya resumed his conversation with the little devil. "Shall we continue chatting?" The little devil looked at his uncle in disdain like he was looking at a mayfly. "Until you find my parents, what's there to chat about?" With that said, he ended the call. Nameless Nya was stupefied. Chapter 785 Late at night. Shueli was on a video call with Qin Ruoshi. Sorry, Director Qin. I failed. At first, they thought that even if Yuanwan took credit for this Myanmar trip, she still wouldn't be able to get a solid footing in the company. Little did they know that the goods handpicked by Qin Ruo, she would turn up empty, and those rubbish raw stones that the other woman bought actually contained a top-grade imperial jade. Now, the entire company was in an uproar about this. They were saying that if Qin Ruoshi went on the trip after all, or if they bought the goods Qin Ruoshi picked out, they definitely would have lost a fortune. Although everyone knew that gambling on stones depended on 70% luck, the woman was able to gain a little footing in the company through this project. It was a complete disaster. Damn it. How could that woman be so lucky? Yuan Shang gritted his teeth. Shueli's face darkened. The days are still long. I don't believe she'll be so lucky every time. The calm and composed Qin Ruoshi was now slightly ruffled. Yuan Shang's eyes shifted as he leaned closer. Cough, Miss Ruoshi. I don't know if I should say this. Qin Ruoshi, speak. Yuan Shang said, actually, no matter how aloof Ninth Master is, you're so much better than that vixen in every aspect. Miss Ruoshi. Who is she to steal Ninth Master's favor? She's only great at striving for love and seducing people, right? So, Qin Ruoshi's lips curled into a sinister smile. So you mean you want me to be like that woman, curry favor with the Ninth Master and strive for love? Shueli immediately raged. Outrageous. Yuan Shang. What sort of person do you think Miss Ruoshi is? A messy woman who fools around. Huh? Yuan Shang panicked and hurriedly explained. No. How could I think of her that way? Miss Ruoshi is the future mistress of the household. How could she compare to those messy women outside? I was just worried that the vixen would come between Miss Ruoshi and Ninth Master and fall out of favor. Shueli was enraged. Even if that woman is favored, she's just a plaything who uses her looks to seduce people. All right, that's enough. I know what to do. Qin Ruoshi interrupted the two of them and looked at Shueli. Just give Aju whatever he likes. Do you still need me to teach you that, huh? Shueli's eyes lit up and he hurriedly said, I got it. The next day, at the airport. Last night, Nameless Nya was frightened out of his wits by that strange video call from the little devil and couldn't sleep the entire night. Right before they parted ways, he grabbed Yuan and begged for help. Famous Yi, my life is in your hands. You promised to help me. Yuan didn't realize he was actually serious. However, judging by how he was acting, it wasn't nice for her to reject him. After all, they did help her a lot this time. It's equivalent to placating a child. It doesn't mean anything, right? Yuan said helplessly. I have to make this clear first. I have no idea how to take care of a child. Nameless Nya immediately said, no problem, no problem. This kid is very easy to take care of. Devotee, Captain, I think you can't conduct yourself this way. It's not morally right. Spray of flowers. Cough, even I think you're talking bullshit. Brick-moving foreigner. Easy. To take care? Is there something wrong with my understanding of Chinese? Iceberg man. Chapter 786 Move aside. Move aside. Nameless Nya chased them away. Famous Yi, don't listen to their nonsense. It's just a child. How difficult could it be? Yuan thought about the little boy's porcelain little face from the video call. How long do I have to pretend for? Once Nameless Nya heard Yuan was agreeing to it, he was beyond emotional. He was in tears as he said, this is just a stalling tactic to gain more time to find his parents. You can stop once I find them. What if you can't find them? I can't pretend forever, right? How could that be? Famous Yi, don't you believe in my abilities? If I really can't find them, I'll just tell him I mistook you for my sister, and you'll be able to leave, right? Nameless Nya hurriedly said. Yuan, why does that sound so unreliable? And there's something else. Nameless Nya said. What? Yuan had a bad feeling about this. Nameless Nya. We're missing a father here. Yuan. Nameless Nya. Famous Yi. Help a person all the way. Yuan. I can't pretend to be your nephew's mother, but as for the father, you have to wait for my news. I already told you before that I have to go back and discuss things with my boyfriend first. Nameless Nya nodded continuously. Sure. No problem. I'll wait for your good news. After their discussion, Yuan and Nameless Nya parted ways. The moment she started walking, her phone rang. Seeing that Yi Fan's name was on the caller ID, Yuan's expression turned gentle as she answered the call. Hello, Ji. Behind her, Nameless Nya stopped in his tracks when he heard Ji. When will I be able to hear my own sister calling me Ji? Wan, are you done having fun? Lately, there's been lots of movement over at Chu Hongguang's side and Gong Su took advantage of the fact that you're away to fool around. Do you even care anymore? Also, did you forget we have to go over to Grandpa and Grandma's this month? I've already picked out a gift for them. When exactly are you coming back? The second Yuan answered the call. Yi Fan's whines came through the receiver instantly. Yuan listened helplessly as Yi Fan rambled on. Stop chasing me. I'm already at the airport, okay? Tisk, did you have fun? Yi Fan snorted. Yuan raised her brows. Not too bad. I had a pretty good time. Yi Fan's voice immediately turned a notch louder. Did that guy take advantage of you? Yuan. I'll give you a chance to rephrase your question. Yi Fan, did you take advantage of him? Yuan. He's a decent man, very reserved. As if he would simply let me take advantage of him. Yi Fan was enraged when he heard that. Damn, who does he think he is, huh? Who is he to be so difficult? My sister is great in every way. How dare he not allow you to take advantage of him? Yuan. So what do you want exactly? Do you want me to take advantage of him, or not? Yi Fan. Yi Fan didn't know how to answer this question. A few hours later, the plane arrived at Imperial City Airport. In order to give Si Han a surprise, Yuan lied to him and told him she would only arrive in the middle of the night when actually, she had booked an earlier flight on purpose. Gentlemen, thank you for your hard work. We will be parting ways here. I'd like to head back to Jean Garden to give Chairman Si a report of the situation. Thanks for your efforts, Miss Yi, the Jade expert said. This trip altered the attitudes of these three people towards Yuan. Behind her, Shueli watched as Yuan left and silently made a phone call. Yuan is going back to Jean Garden. Yes, you may head over now. Chapter 787 On the way to Jean Garden. Yuan suddenly received a text message. It was from Si Xia, who hadn't contacted her for quite some time. Friendly reminder. You've turned green? What does that even mean? I think I'm quite red one now. Yuan had a suspicious look and replied. What do you mean? Si Xia. The literal meaning. Yuan. What the hell? Si Xia didn't reply anymore. Yuan didn't think much about it and returned to Jean Garden. Late at night, Jean Garden. Sui thought it was excessively demanding that someone from the subsidiary company actually delivered an urgent project proposal to him. This was quite normal and wasn't out of the ordinary. Ninth Master mentioned that the proposal must be sent to him immediately once it was completed, no matter what the time was. But the problem was that the person delivering that proposal was slightly unusual. The secretary looked great and had a fantastic figure. As it was already after office hours, she was in a more casual outfit. Her style of dress and mannerisms were extremely similar to Yuan's. She even looked similar in appearance. Is this going to stir up trouble? Sui thought about it and realized what was going on. Ever since Ninth Master became the head of the household, many tried to push women onto him. However, due to Ninth Master's irritable temper and hatred for women getting close to him, everyone gave up in the end. Since Miss Wan had been taking care of his health lately, Ninth Master's temperament became gentler. Plus, with Miss Wan around, the rumors about Ninth Master not liking women were gone, and some people had started making moves. Sui thought about it while he glanced into the study behind him. This time, those people were giving it their all. He really had to hand it to them for being able to find someone like this. They thought Ninth Master fancied this sort of woman. so they attempted to find someone similar to Miss Wanwan to push her out. "I'm back." Suddenly, Yi Wanwan's voice came from the stairs and Su-yi, who was still deep in thought, was frightened out of his wits. "Shit, what's going on? Isn't Miss Wanwan on a night flight? Why's she back now?" Sui was panicking as Yi Wanwan made her way upstairs and walked in the direction of the study. The girl was dressed in a striking dark red dress. She was wearing a pair of white strappy heels and had a diamante milky white woolen coat over her shoulders. The soft curls of her hair draped over her shoulders lazily, and she looked extremely sweet and captivating. Although that woman in the house was dressed exactly like Yi Wanwan, after seeing Yi Wanwan, Sui then realized what the difference was. If Yi Wanwan was said to be a rose with a dewdrop under the moonlight, this woman was a fake flower made of plastic. "Housekeeper Su, where's Agio?" Sui saw that Yi Wanwan had already made her way to the door of the study. He started sweating profusely and hurriedly tried to remediate the situation for his master. "Ninth Master is inside dealing with some business matters." "Miss Wanwan, you've had a long journey. Why don't you go to the garden for a cup of tea and wait a little while?" "Oh, he's busy." Yi Wanwan seemed a little sad and she asked, "Why do I have to go to the garden for tea?" Obviously, it was because he was afraid Miss Wanwan would see something she shouldn't see if she entered the study. Even though Master is blind, what if that woman tries something? How could it be such a coincidence? That woman just entered, and Miss Wanwan arrived almost right after. Chapter 788. Been cheated on. Sui racked his brains for an excuse. Because the sunflowers in the garden are growing really well. They've started producing seeds. You can sip on some tea while admiring the beautiful blooms. But I miss your master. I'll just wait here. How much longer will he be?" Yi Wanwan asked. Sui nearly broke down in tears. "I'm not too sure about that. He'll probably take a long time. So Miss Wanwan, you'd better take a seat and rest." At first, Sui's words didn't sound suspicious, but Yi Wanwan suddenly recalled the text message from Xia. "Sui, are you hiding something from me?" Yi Wanwan asked. Sui, no. Seeing how Sui denied it so quickly, Yi Wanwan's eyes narrowed. "What's in there?" Yi Wanwan's gaze was simply too intense. Sui felt like he couldn't handle it anymore. "There's nothing. Nothing at all." Yi Wanwan chuckled. "TSK, don't tell me there's a woman inside, eh?" Sui's heart skipped a beat and he immediately said, "How could there be a woman?" "No, what I mean is that the person reporting on the proposal inside is, in fact, a woman, but it's definitely not what you think." Yi Wanwan. "Oh? Why don't you tell me what I'm thinking?" Sui, I'm dead. Why is this getting more and more out of hand? "So, Xia said I'm green. It means I've been cheated on?" Yi Wanwan swept her gaze across Sui. "Move." Sui hurriedly explained. "Miss Wanwan, please don't misunderstand. That woman inside does have a little problem, but I'm afraid you'll misunderstand when you see her, so I tried stopping you just now. But you should trust that Ninth Master would never do that sort of thing," Yi Wanwan said casually. "I won't misunderstand anything. I just wanted you to make way. Why are you so nervous?" "Really?" Seeing that Yi Wanwan didn't look angry, Sui moved aside hesitantly. In the next second, bang, the door of the study was kicked open by Yi Wanwan. "Sui, didn't she say she wouldn't misunderstand?" Sui was dumbstruck as he watched Miss Wanwan kicking open the door in her floral dress and high heels. The door toppled over with a loud crash. Then she simply stepped over the door on the floor and entered slowly. After the door was kicked down, Yi Wanwan immediately saw the situation in the study. Si Han was behind the desk looking through a thick stack of documents. If one took a closer look, they would see that he seemed quite distracted, and he would glance at the wall from time to time. A sweet and adorable girl stood a couple steps away in front of the desk and was reporting something to Si Han in a gentle voice. The girl's style of dress and makeup were very similar to hers. Even her stature and mannerisms were almost identical to hers. Yi Wanwan's expression changed when she saw that girl. After hearing the loud crash, the girl screamed in shock. "Ah, get out." Yi Wanwan didn't even take a glance at the girl. After she tossed out those two words, her eyes turned to Si Han directly. Chairman Si. This. The frightened girl looked at Si Han, resentful. From the door, Sui hurriedly made hints to the girl. Secretary Lin, why are you still standing there? Hurry and come out. Assistant, he has something to tell Ninth Master. The woman didn't have a choice and reluctantly left. The moment Si Han saw Yi Wanwan, his stone-cold eyes glistened in an instant like stars falling from the galaxy, and they were fixated on her. You're back. Yi Wanwan. There's something wrong with this guy's reaction, right? Chapter 789. Since when did I seduce him? I entered by kicking the door down. Okay. Yet he's still so calm and composed. Doesn't he know that I'm fuming? Weren't you going to arrive later tonight? Si Han asked. Yi Wanwan strode towards Si Han and slammed the table. What? Are you disappointed that I came back earlier and ruined your night? Huh? Si Han was confused. What? Yi Wanwan raged in anger. Stop pretending. That woman, who offered that tribute to you. It's so late. You must have had a great time chatting with her, right? Si Han's eyes turned gloomy. Woman? When Yi Wanwan saw that he was still feigning ignorance, she nearly exploded. That's right, that female secretary. From her style of dress to her makeup and hairstyle, she looks almost identical to me. Even the way she acts is identical. She's obviously imitating me on purpose. Don't tell me you couldn't tell that someone brought this woman here intentionally as a tribute to you. Si Han replied directly, Nope. Yi Wanwan nearly choked from anger, and she slammed the table once again. Liar. That woman was speaking so coyly. What about those little coquettish glances she gave you? How could you not know she was seducing you? Si Han stared plainly at Yi Wanwan for a few seconds. The girl was furious. Her cheeks were red, and it was as if there was a furnace burning in her eyes. Her gaze was bright and emotional, and he was shaken to his core by her beauty. What stirred his heart most was that she's getting mad at this. Under Yi Wanwan's fuming gaze, Si Han slowly reached out and grabbed the back of her head, then kissed her on the lips. From getting kissed all of a sudden, Yi Wanwan blinked and went blank. She pushed him away angrily but failed and was still locked in his embrace. Hey, I'm mad, all right? Could you take this more seriously? Si Han's pupils darkened, and in the next second, he kissed her soft red lips again, and his voice was muffled between her teeth. You seduced me. The moment he touched the girl's lips, he seemed to have found a place where he belonged and was immediately appeased after all those days of longing for her. Yi Wanwan. What? Since when did I seduce him? How does this man's brain work? Huh? He actually counterattacked. She hadn't seen him for many days. His coolness and nonchalance turned into nothingness, and his kiss became more intense, like a blazing ball of fire about to exhaust her completely. Yi Wanwan was almost enchanted by his beauty. She finally regained her senses after a long time and straightened up before she continued complaining. Don't you dare give me that honey trap. I went on a work trip and worked so hard. Yet you actually cheated on me. How could you face me like this? I didn't notice what she was wearing, how she acted, or how she looked, Si Han said. Yi Wanwan wanted to say, are you blind? But Si Han continued after a pause. I was thinking of you. Yi Wanwan. Wah. Where did this sudden bout of sweet nothings come from? This excuse is pretty bullshit, but judging by Si Han's EQ, it might actually be true, eh? So the person who sent that secretary spent so much effort to find someone like this, but in the end, Si Han didn't even care about how she looks? After thinking it through, Yi Wanwan thought it was quite believable. All right, I'll believe you just this once. Yi Wanwan coughed lightly and warned him sternly, if you dare to find another woman behind my back, I'll bring an illegitimate child back. Chapter 790. Liking you more, Sui was worried that something would happen inside. He hurriedly chased the little secretary away, then stood by the door and eavesdropped. Then he heard that hair-raising phrase. If you dare to find another woman behind my back, I'll bring an illegitimate child back. Sui pictured that in his head for a moment. That's too terrifying. I'd better deal with that secretary immediately. Why are you back so soon? How did it go? Shueli asked the little secretary who came back within the hour. The little secretary replied excitedly, "It went very smoothly. Ninth Master wasn't as scary as I thought and directly allowed me in to make my report. He was also very gentle with me, but unfortunately, I was only inside for a while before that woman came back." Deputy Director Shui, you know what happened? That woman actually kicked the door down and entered. I've never met such a boorish woman in my life. She's just like a savage. I was wondering how tolerant she would be, but she couldn't contain her anger at all. She's definitely making a big fuss with Ninth Master right now. I know men very well. They hate those uncouth, violent, and unreasonable women. Especially for someone like Ninth Master, that woman won't live so comfortably anymore for sure. Hearing how confident the little secretary sounded, Shueli calmed down. If you've really won the favor of Ninth Master, I'll double the benefits I promised you before. The little secretary lit up instantly and felt a hint of disdain in her heart. When I gain the favor of Ninth Master, what's that little bit of benefit to me? TSK. The little secretary was fantasizing about them together in her head when Shueli's phone suddenly rang. The person on the other end said something and Shueli's face instantly turned gloomy. After some time, Shueli hung up the phone and turned to the little secretary with a darkened expression. This is your definition of smooth? Upon seeing Shueli's gloomy expression, the little secretary's delighted smile froze on her face and she asked carefully, Deputy Director Shui, What happened? Shueli, you're fired. What? That's impossible. At the same time, a certain great devil was looking at the boorish, violent, and unreasonable girl before him with flames in his eyes. Yuan, who kicked up a fuss because she was mad, was simply the most seductive to him. Where's my cake? I'll bring it to you later. Why later? Because I want to enjoy the way you look for a little while longer. Certainly, after some time, Si Han brought the cake out and Yuan's anger vanished immediately like the clouds. A hint of helplessness flashed across Si Han's brows. Yummy! Yuan took a bite and her eyes glistened. Si Han watched as she ate like a little squirrel and he asked, Why do you want to eat this all of a sudden? Yuan took a big bite before she said, I don't know. I really hated almonds in the past and I don't know what happened, but I've been craving them badly lately. She remembered Xia liked this cake. While they were in school, many girls gave him almond cakes. I see. Si Han's eyes lit up slightly, a secret hidden within. After a moment of silence, Si Han looked intently at the girl's dazzling little face becoming more and more attractive like a butterfly coming out of its cocoon. He asked, Any other changes in your taste, hobbies, and habits? Yuan thought about it. Taste, hobbies, and habits? I didn't really pay much attention to them. Si Han looked very serious. Think carefully. Yuan rubbed her chin, blinked, and thought about it very carefully. I'm starting to like you more. Does this count? Si Han, N. Chapter 791. Knocked into someone? As Yuan was away for quite a long time, her work had piled up at Dazzling so she didn't stay over. It was already very late at night when she left Jean Garden. Not long after she reached the garage, Yuan scanned the area instinctively. Very soon, Yuan frowned. She wasn't sure why she felt somewhat uneasy, like there was someone staring at her in the dark. Yuan shrugged it off and thought she was simply too tired from the past few days. She opened the car door and drove away. On the way back to the apartment, Yuan opened the car windows and tried her best to keep herself awake. It was late at night. The crescent moon hung high in the sky, and with the night wind blowing gently, she felt pretty relaxed and content. Not long after, the car slowed down. Yuan frowned as she read the road sign ahead with a throbbing headache. There was road work ahead and cars weren't allowed to pass. Yuan didn't have a choice but to make a U-turn and drive on the lane on the left side. The road conditions weren't too bad, and there weren't many cars coming in her direction. Yuan turned on the music and stepped on the accelerator. She disappeared within seconds. Swish! Suddenly, A shadow flashed past Yi Wanwan's eyes. Yi Wanwan didn't have any idea what happened. She only heard a loud bang and felt a violent impact. Yi Wanwan slammed on the brakes almost instinctively. The car drifted slightly and left black skid marks about 10 meters long. At this moment, Yi Wanwan sat in the driver's seat with her heart thumping. She seemed to have seen a shadow flash by just now. Then she knocked into something. Accident? Yi Wanwan hadn't fully returned to her senses. She didn't slow down at all, and with that speed and impact just now, even someone with a copper head and iron skull would have definitely been crushed. After 10 seconds later, Yi Wanwan hurriedly opened the door and stepped out of the car. Her 2 headlights were still flickering and illuminating the path ahead, but Yi Wanwan couldn't see the pedestrian she knocked into. At this moment, Yi Wanwan realized the front of her car was dented from the violent impact, and she also saw how strong the impact was. I'm doomed. Yi Wanwan panicked and looked around anxiously. Yi Wanwan searched all around, yet she couldn't find anything out of the ordinary. Yi Wanwan walked to the front of the car swiftly and turned on her phone flashlight. She bent over and looked under the car carefully. Yi Wanwan didn't dare to open her eyes. She was afraid she would find a dismembered corpse under her car. However, there was nothing at all save for a little gas leakage. Huh? Yi Wanwan straightened up and was perturbed. Could it be that I didn't hit a person just now? But thinking about it again, Yi Wanwan felt something was off. There was nothing at all, and the car couldn't have knocked into air. Furthermore, even if she knocked into a dog or cat, it wouldn't have dented the car so badly. And if she had really knocked into a cat or dog, it should leave a corpse at least. Could it be that I knocked into a lion or tiger? Yi Wanwan scanned her surroundings. Although she was in the suburbs and there shouldn't be wild animals scuttling around for her to knock into, right? Yi Wanwan looked at the dent carefully. Judging by the shape of this dent, it was definitely a human she knocked into. Also, Yi Wanwan saw a few strands of white hair. They probably belonged to an elder. Yi Wanwan finally had the courage to scan the man, and he really seemed like he was all right. But it was exactly because he was fine that freaked her out, all right? Any normal human being would have been dead by now. Even if he wasn't dead, he should have been severely injured. Yet this person was completely fine. Be more careful when you're driving next time. You were lucky to have knocked into me. What would you have done if you knocked into some other pedestrian? The man nagged like a senior. Yes, big bro. You're right, big bro. Are you a human or a ghost? Yi Wanwan asked carefully. The man was taken aback by her question. You thought you sent me to my death? Yi Wanwan knitted her brows. Didn't he die from this car crash, huh? Chapter 793. Car Accident Scam. At this moment, she looked at this man with long white hair that reached his waist. He didn't seem to be what she thought he was. The situation made Yi Wanwan a little flustered, and she couldn't think clearly. I'm a human, not a ghost. The man chuckled softly. Yi Wanwan was astonished. Did I really knock you down just now? Yi Wanwan stared at the white-haired man, and she looked even more puzzled. The car's already so dented, yet he's still alive? It did hurt a little. The white-haired man complained and nodded with a look of certainty. Are you really all right? Do you want me to take you to the hospital? Yi Wanwan knitted her brows. I'm fine, don't worry. The white-haired man smiled. That's good then. Yi Wanwan nodded, then said, compensate me now. Upon hearing what Yi Wanwan said, the white-haired man was stunned. You knocked into me, yet you're asking me for compensation? That's what I said. Although I was the one who knocked into you, you're perfectly fine while my car is not. Yi Wanwan opened the car door and pulled the white-haired man out. She then pointed at her car. Look at this. My car is so damaged thanks to you. So you can forget about leaving until you pay up. Miss, fortunes and riches are just superficial objects. You can't bring them to the grave with you, so don't be so greedy. Anyway, I don't have a single cent. The white-haired man shook his head. I don't care. You've damaged my car so badly. You must pay up. Yi Wanwan insisted. Where did you learn this unreasonable behavior from? The white-haired man stood rooted to the ground and looked suspiciously at Yi Wanwan. Before Yi Wanwan could speak, the white-haired man suddenly laid next to Yi Wanwan's feet. You've injured me. You have to pay for my medical bills. Since when did I hit you? Yi Wanwan was taken aback. Just a few moments ago, in the car. You punched me. Hurry, pay for my medical bills. I can't take it anymore. The white-haired man looked like he was in tremendous pain. Yi Wanwan. I was in shock in the car, so I did punch him, but that was over half an hour ago. This white-haired man only started screaming in pain now. This arrow shot back at me is a little too long. Huh. Enough. Stop pretending. I'll just waive the compensation for my car. Yi Wanwan sighed. I suddenly realized that your punch wasn't so bad and I feel slightly better now. The white-haired man slowly stood up. Haha. Yi Wanwan laughed. So you were faking it, huh? You still have to pay up for the damage. I can't handle this pain anymore. I think you punched me too hard. Hurry, pay for my medical bills. The white-haired man looked like he was in pain and he laid back on the ground. Yi Wanwan. Why didn't I knock him to death just now? Finally, Yi Wanwan negotiated with the white-haired man. Neither of them would extort from the other. After the white-haired man agreed to it, he stood up. I'll get going if there's nothing else. Yi Wanwan was about to get into the car. Upon seeing this, the white-haired man grabbed Yi Wanwan and stopped her. You still got to compensate me. What? Yi Wanwan was shocked. Didn't we just make an agreement? Why is he asking me for money again? We settled on the punch, but not the car accident. You still got to pay up. The man was firm. Aren't you all right? The corners of Yi Wanwan's lips twitched. I can't take it anymore. I almost died from this accident. You gotta compensate me today. The man acted like he was in agony and he laid on the ground for the third time. Chapter 794. Do you need help? Watching the amazing actor before her, Yi Wanwan was dumbfounded and wished she could give him one tight slap. Before Yi Wanwan could say a word, an SUV came speeding in their direction. Yi Wanwan and the white-haired man were in the middle of the road. Yet the SUV didn't seem to have the slightest intention of slowing down at all. Instead, it accelerated faster and faster, coming straight for Yi Wanwan. At that instant, Yi Wanwan retreated backward at lightning speed. Swish! The SUV went by in a flash and didn't knock into Yi Wanwan. Its speed didn't decrease and was about to knock into the white-haired man, who was playing dead on the ground. The white-haired guy stood up instantly and his movements were swift. He actually managed to dodge. In the next second, the SUV stopped and the door was opened. 3 men dressed in black stepped out of the car. The one leading the group looked like he was in his 30s and was expressionless. He merely glanced at Yi Wanwan before he made a gesture of slitting his throat to the other 2 men behind. Seeing this, Yi Wanwan furrowed her brows. She felt quite uneasy before and felt that someone was following her. Not long afterward, these people showed up wanting to kill her. Qin Ruo, she sent you guys? Yi Wanwan probed. Hearing that, the 3 men in black went blank and one of them instinctively blurted out, Who's Qin Ruo she? Judging by their reactions, they didn't seem to be lying. It's not Qin Ruo she, Yi Wanwan thought to herself. From what Yi Wanwan knew about Qin Ruo she in her previous life, with her cautiousness, she wouldn't choose a time like this to deal with her. Furthermore, she wasn't a threat to Qin Ruo she at the moment. So there wasn't any reasonable explanation for Qin Ruo she to send killers after her. But if it's not Qin Ruo she, who else would send people to assassinate me? Yi Wanwan's mind was working rapidly, yet she couldn't find any clues. Initially, Yi Wanwan guessed it might be Feng Yiping and Si Mingli who sent these people to deal with her. But thinking about it more carefully, it wasn't realistic. When she was in Myanmar, she started a feud with those 2 and embarrassed them thoroughly. Everyone knew that if something happened to her at this critical point in time, they would be the first suspects. With Si Mingli and Feng Yiping's shrewdness, they would never do something so foolish. Without giving Yi Wanwan time to think, The three men in black charged forward and surrounded her. In the blink of an eye, the three of them attacked her at the same time. How fast? Yuanwan was slightly surprised. These three people were very skilled, and even Yuanwan felt a little bit pressured. With three of them attacking at the same time, each move could get her killed, and every single move was murderous. Currently, the white-haired man was standing nearby, and his clear eyes were focused on Yuanwan's countermoves. He raised his brows. This girl's moves. Do you need help? Very soon, the white-haired man stepped forward and approached Yuanwan. Yes. Yuanwan was very straightforward. You do? The white-haired man nodded. Give me money then. I'll help you if you give me money. There's no free lunch in this world, don't you agree? Yuanwan was speechless. Is money all he thinks about? Huh? 100,000. 100,000 and I'll help you. What do you think? The white-haired man followed Yuanwan closely. 50,000. I won't haggle anymore. This is the lowest price. Give me $50,000 and I'll help you. The man hurriedly said. $100. Yuanwan extracted her body out of the fight for a moment and frowned. $100? Are you trying to chase a beggar away? The white-haired man didn't bother with Yuanwan anymore. Instead, he turned to those three men in black. Do you guys need help? Give me $1 million and I'll help you guys settle this. Chapter 795. So shameless Yuanwan. She had never seen someone so shameless before. Those men in black were obviously normal people, so when they heard what the white-haired men said, they were all dumbfounded. Get lost. One of the men bellowed. You really don't want to consider, dear? Don't get in the way. Otherwise, we'll kill you as well. I'll lower the price a bit. How about $100,000? $50,000. I can't go any lower. You're asking for it. The three men in black couldn't take it any longer. They looked at one another and charged towards that white-haired man at once, ready to eliminate the person in the way first. The white-haired man smiled faintly. Tisk, it's really inexpensive. You're buying 3 lives with $50,000, Yuanwan stared at the man. What sort of person is he exactly? Even after her car was so damaged, he was still fine. Even though she knew there were a couple of martial arts aristocratic families in Country Z, their bodies could withstand a large degree of force after training to a certain standard, and having copper skin and iron skull wasn't hearsay. Wasn't it a little too scary that he wasn't even afraid of being hit by a car? Moreover, his expression remained the same even when he was facing these 3 killers. His skills might even be better than nameless Nyering gang. Could it be that this mysterious person was a secret descendant of an expert? With that thought, the 3 men in black were already pouncing on the white-haired man. Following that, Yuanwan's jaw dropped. The sound of fists punching into a body kept ringing out. The white-haired man was surrounded by the 3 men in black and was being beaten to a pulp. He wasn't able to retaliate at all. Yuanwan, I seem to have thought too far and overestimated him. So this guy is purely a scammer who's great at acting? With this skill, he had the guts to promote and sell himself to both sides to help with the fight? What was he even thinking? Seeing that the white-haired man had no strength to retaliate at all, the 3 men didn't bother with him any further and hurriedly attacked Yuanwan. Yuanwan's eyes lit up and she focused all her energy on fighting back. She was wrong about this strange white-haired man, but she was right about these 3 men. Judging from how they fought just now, these 3 were experts and just dealing with one of them would be tiring, not to mention all 3 at the same time. And this place was in the middle of nowhere. In a moment, countless thoughts flashed across Yuanwan's mind. However, just as she was thinking about how to deal with them, those men in black fell to the ground without a sound all of a sudden, one after another. Yuanwan was stunned. What just happened? Could it be that white-haired man? But how could he take away 3 people's lives in a split second? What sort of skill is that? Alas, Yuanwan finally saw the white-haired man clearly. Behind those men in black, the white-haired man had a gun in his hand, and there was a silencer attached to the gun. All she saw was the white-haired man blowing his gun. He patted the dust on his shirt away and said in disgust, "SK, what era is this? People still fight? Which tomb did you guys come out from?" Yuan. She really overthought things. Once the white-haired man was done speaking, he stepped on the three men and walked towards Yuan. He stretched out his slender fingers and said, "Hand it over." What? Yuan was still in a daze. White-haired man. $100. You promised? Yuan. I thought he didn't agree to it. He's actually not even letting go of $100. White-haired man. What? You don't have cash? You can send it through WeChat. Yuan. Go to hell with this mysterious identity. Secretive expert. Chapter 796. I'm special and gifted. Yuan held her head. Why do I keep bumping into such weird people after being reborn? However, since she was reborn, her coping mechanisms were quite strong. If it was anybody else, he or she would have probably been confused and gone crazy. You don't have WeChat? What about QQ? The white-haired man was already reading out his QQ number in haste. Yuan took out her phone and added his QQ helplessly. The two of them added each other as friends. Then Yuan saw that his nickname was Lonely Top Dog and his display picture was a photo of himself. If it wasn't for his good looks, this head of white hair would make him look like a punk. His biography was truly hard to explain in a few words. How lonely it is to be invincible. How empty it is to be invincible. Alone at the top with the cold wind howling. Who could understand my loneliness? Yuan. Yuan sent him a $100 red packet through the app without a word. The white-haired man smiled and accepted the red packet. Then he suddenly stared at her and asked, "Miss, who taught you those moves just now?" Yuan glanced at him and simply replied, "I learned them myself." Why? Lately, various moves and strategies often appeared in her head. When the white-haired man heard that, he raised his brows. "Are you sure you weren't taught by a handsome and amazing expert?" Yuan. I think it's because I'm special and gifted. The white-haired man choked. "Miss, you're not modest at all." Yuan. Is there anything else? Otherwise, I need to go and repair my car. I suddenly remembered that I'm meeting someone for a spar. I'll get going first. Miss, if you really want to thank me, just help me with my QQ membership level. The annual fee one. The white-haired man glanced at the big dent on her car and was afraid she would ask for compensation, so he hurriedly waved and ran away without a trace. Yuan. If he wants to act as an expert, could he do it all the way? He's not putting in any effort at all. It wasn't suitable to stay there for long. After the white-haired man left, Yuan left as well, and thankfully, the engine wasn't damaged, so she could still drive the car. Judging by the fighters' moves, she could tell they had powerful sponsors. However, these people seemed to be afraid and didn't dare to attack her openly. Just which power wants to take my life? The elders in the C family, or Qin Ruashi? Or is there a power behind the scenes that I didn't know about in both lives? In her previous life, she also encountered an assassination attempt like this. After that, she somehow died. She didn't even know how she died, so she didn't have any clues at all. And where did this white-haired man, who suddenly appeared then disappeared, come from? It's simply puzzling. With these thoughts running through Yuan's mind, she made a U-turn and drove directly to a courtyard in the suburbs of Beijing. She already got Feng Xian-yi to gather those mercenaries she brought over from Myanmar and settled them down somewhere. With her current situation, it was the right time to build her army. When Yuan arrived, those few people were all huddled together, talking about their new boss. Little Lolita held her face. Didn't expect that the Black Widow would be so pretty. She's even prettier than how they described her in those rumors. The fatty shook his head. Of course she's pretty. She drinks the blood of young girls like you to maintain her looks, eh? The guy with long hair said, "Why do you think the Black Widow would create this identity and hide in the C family?" The bearded man glanced at him and said, "Baby, you're so dumb. Do you even need to ask? Obviously, it's for a man. Everyone knows the Black Widow loves good-looking men." It was rumored that even though the master of the C family is brutal and violent, he's extremely handsome. This KV boss entered the C family with a hidden identity. What other reason could it be other than to sleep with him? Huh? Yu Wanwan, who was standing at the door. Chapter 797. Hope you get to bed him soon, BBB boss. The few of them immediately stood up when they saw Yu Wanwan, and their faces turned pale. The elderly man hurriedly explained, Madam, please ignore the two of them. They didn't mean it. Little Lolita was so frightened that she cried. Mommy, I don't want to be sucked dry of my blood. I don't want to be a human puppet. The bearded man's legs trembled. Boss, I was wrong. I was wrong. I shouldn't have run my mouth. The guy with long hair quickly explained. Yes, boss. Don't stoop to Changdi's level. Boss, there must be a very important mission, which is why you're hiding in the C family. We know. Yu Wanwan strode over and sat down lazily on the black leather sofa. She glanced at the trembling and terrified people. No, I just want to bed Si Han. She was racking her brains for an explanation, but it was fine now. They saved her the trouble. The group of 5 mercenaries choked on their words. Cough, cough, cough. The long-haired man nearly choked to death on his own saliva. He struggled for a long time before he managed to say, that. Then I hope boss can bed him soon. The fatty obediently said, Boss, do you need some help with that? I have a type of medicine that allows you to do whatever you want to him. No matter how good-looking he is, he'll listen to you. Yu Wanwan, no need. The guy with long hair mumbled, Stupid fatso. What do you know, huh? That's not fun at all. With boss abilities, it'd be so easy if she wants to force it on him. The fatty immediately replied, That's true. I was being nosy. At this moment, the elderly asked, Madam, it's so late. Do you have something you need to tell us? Yu Wanwan warned them, From today onwards, you guys will follow me around and I'll change your identities. Also, none of you are allowed to divulge my identity to anyone, understand? Yes. Thank you, boss. The 5 of them shouted at the same time. Yu Wanwan assigned them some tasks before returning to the apartment. Behind her, the 5 mercenaries watched as Yu Wanwan left and started whispering among themselves. It's been a close call for us all this time. If it wasn't for the Rose of Death's appearance, we wouldn't be here today. The long-haired man sighed. Thinking back to those days when they were on the run, the 5 people had a gloomy expression as they recalled their fallen brothers. The fatty said, We're a new team. Should we give something nice to Boss to win her favor and to thank Boss for saving us? What should we give her then? I like fluffy little bears. How cute would that be? Little Lolita asked. The adults are talking. Kids should move aside. The fatty shoved little Lolita away and moved closer to the long-haired and bearded man. Boss couldn't bed the C family's master after so long, so she must be really thirsty. Why don't we offer her a few handsome men? I think that's not a bad idea. I think that would work. Late at night, Yu Wanwan laid on her bed, unable to fall asleep. Too many things had happened recently. Thinking about that white-haired man she saw that day, Yu Wanwan picked up her phone and looked through QQ. Which secret expert would exchange their QQ number with someone they just met? It's really strange. Yu Wanwan was thinking about it when she realized that the white-haired man had updated his nickname about an hour ago. What's even lonelier than being invincible is not having little Worryless by my side. Cries, Worryless? Yu Wanwan stared at the word on her screen. Is that a name or something else? It looked quite familiar. Chapter 798. Must get it back the next morning. Dazzling media. You're finally done having fun? Yimu fan whined. Yi Wanwan grinned. I brought some gifts for Daddy, Mommy and you. Yimu fan's expression changed slightly as he mumbled. At least you have some conscience. We're going to the old residence tonight, right? Yi Wanwan asked. Yeah. Once she brought this up, Yimu fan's face turned dark. Can we not go? Aren't things going well for us? Why must we go back and get bullied? Yi Wanwan swept her eyes across him and her gaze was icy cold. I've said this before. You must win the Yi family back. Did you forget how they treated Mom and Dad? Oh, Yimu Fan was embarrassed after receiving Yi Wanwan's icy glare, and he rubbed his nose. Of course I want that too, but with our current abilities and Grandpa and Grandma's prejudice against us, it's as hard as ascending to the skies. Yi Wanwan looked at him. You think Grandpa and Grandma's trust in them is so strong that it can't be broken? Evening at the Yi family's old residence. The two seniors had already heard about Yimu Fan's involvement in the movie and the fact he had won so many big awards. They also knew about him serving as the vice president of the Fashion Association. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done something so groundbreaking as inviting him over for dinner for the very first time. It was a Yi family clan gathering today. So many friends and relatives were present. The second Yi Wanwan and Yimu Fan appeared. They attracted quite a bit of attention. With their looks, this pair of siblings was simply too eye-catching when they stood next to each other. Tanny Lan looked at the siblings who were very pleasing to the eyes, and her expression turned warm. Grandma! After being nudged awake by Yi Wanwan, Yimu Fan kept his spirits up and walked towards the two elderly. Grandma, I brought a gift for you and Grandpa. Take a look and see if you like it. It's enough that you're here. Why did you bring us gifts? Although that was what Tanny Lan said, she was still very satisfied. Yimu Fan looped his arm onto Tanny Lan's arm intimately. I've earned some money, so the first thing I should do is buy you presents, obviously. Tanny Lan was relieved to hear that, and she said, Mu Fan, you're finally starting to be more sensible now. Lately, your performance isn't bad, and when I bumped into Chairman Mu, he even praised you. Did he praise me for getting the good genes from Grandma? Your fantastic taste in fashion? Oh, you are. Seeing that Tanny Lan was so happy with Yimu Fan sucking up to her, Liang Mei Xian gritted her teeth. Liang Mei Xian strode over and mumbled, Mom, I heard Mu Fan is a stylist for a small subsidiary company under Worldwide? How could our people from Emperor Sky work for Worldwide? If this comes out, what would people think? Yimu Fan sneered. Second aunt, I'm afraid you're quite shallow, huh? As the saying goes, learn from the foreigners in order to gain command of them. We have to know ourselves and the enemy, then we'll be able to emerge victoriously. I'm working at Worldwide in order to find out more about them and understand the way they work. Behind him, Old Master Yi walked over and nodded. What Mu Fan said makes sense. Liang Mei Xian didn't have anything to say. Her face was covered in resentment. She couldn't tolerate it and wanted to continue when a little hand tugged at her arm lightly, asking her to stop. Yi was wearing a beautiful light blue evening gown, and she walked over to Tanny Lan. Grandma, I have good news. We've reached an agreement to collaborate with Splendid Pictures for our key TV series this year. When Tanny Lan heard that, she directed all her attention to Yi. Really? Splendid Pictures was the country's top movie production company, synonymous with the word big. When Yimu Fan heard that, his eyes turned gloomy. While he was still struggling at a small subsidiary company, Yi had already reached a level that was beyond his reach. Tisk. Open and above board, two of them are in love. Huh? She set me up then threatened my father and finally, hooked up with Gu Yuze, slowly destroying our family completely. Liang Mei Xian spoke while she observed the reactions of Yi Wanwan and Yimu Fan calmly. She wasn't afraid these two would cause a ruckus. It would be best if they could start a big one. That would be exciting. Lately, she noticed that the two elderly were starting to soften and her head starting hurting. Yimu Fan was so mad that he nearly charged towards Liang Mei Xian. You. At this moment, Yi Wanwan, who hadn't spoken at all, pulled Yimu Fan back casually, then smiled widely and walked towards the two elderly, Liang Mei Xian and Yi. She said with crystal-clear eyes, Gu, you've misunderstood Second Aunt. How could she mean it that way? Second Aunt really liked Yu Zeji before, and now that he's with Yi, Second Aunt is just really happy. So she simply said stuff like how the Gu family fancies Yi. Chapter 800. I will never let you suffer furthermore. Ijie is really amazing. Ijie is now my role model, and as for you Zeiji, he's very compatible with Ijie, so I sincerely give them my blessings. I hope they can get along well. Otherwise, I wouldn't have taken the initiative to cancel the engagement at Grandpa's birthday banquet that time. I did that because I don't want Ijie and you Zeiji to be affected by me. I was too ignorant and willful in the past and made Grandpa and Grandma so worried and disappointed. Thankfully, there's second aunt and Ijie by their side. Hearing what Yuanwan said, Liang Meixian looked like she had just seen a ghost, and Yi furrowed her brows as well. Yimu Fan was obviously dumbstruck. Tanny Lan looked at her granddaughter carefully. Not only did she change her style of dress, but even her character had also changed quite a bit. Although she was still doubtful, she still said, "It's great that you think this way." Yi Hongwei's cold and sour expression warmed up a little. "You're finally behaving properly." Yi Wanwan walked up to Liang Meixian and took out a small box. She opened it, and there was a jade-beaded bracelet inside. "Second aunt, I went to Myanmar for holiday and specifically bought you a jade-beaded bracelet. It's not expensive, but I picked it out very carefully. I hope you like it." Liang Meixian looked doubtful and skeptical. This brat. What's with the drastic change in attitude, and what tricks does she have up her sleeve? Seeing that Liang Meixian was in a daze, Yuanwan looked hurt and retracted her arms slightly. "I was rude, sorry. This thing is so cheap. It's not consistent with second aunt's status at all." Liang Meixian hurriedly accepted the item and hid the disdain in her eyes. She smiled. "Not at all. It's seldom that Wanwan is so nice. I really like it. Thank you." The old man was pleased to see this. He nodded and said in a serious tone, "Not bad. This is how a family should be. Don't keep fighting anymore." He was very satisfied with Yi Wanwan's performance today. They chatted for a bit before Yimu Fan couldn't hold it in any longer, and he pulled Yi Wanwan aside. "Wanwan, have you lost your mind? Never mind that you're speaking so nicely to that woman, but you even gave her a gift." Yi Wanwan stroked the rose petals calmly. "You think I should squabble with her like you did? If you cause a ruckus today, those good impressions Grandpa and Grandma had of us would go down the drain. But we don't have to be so submissive with her, right?" Yimu Fan clenched his fists tightly when he thought of how Yi Wanwan swallowed her pride, humbled herself, and suffered grievances for him. He felt unbearably awful. He'd rather see her being willful and making a scene. "Wanwan." Yimu Fan looked at Yi Wanwan with a firm gaze. "Gu will definitely get back everything that belongs to us. I'll never let you suffer again." Upon seeing how serious he was, Yi Wanwan's expression turned gentler. "I believe that Gigi can do it." Behind them, Liang Meixian suddenly walked over. TSK, just a vice chairperson of the Fashion Association, yet your ego is ascending to the skies. If RE was like you, wouldn't she have to beat a gong and set off firecrackers every single day? You actually wanted to snatch a man away from RE. Why don't you see and take a look at your reflection? See what kind of person you are." Yimu Fan recalled what Wanwan said and didn't want to quarrel with Liang Meixian. He glanced at her, controlled his temper, and ignored her. Chapter 801. So what if I hit you? Liang Meixian became even more arrogant when she saw that the two of them didn't dare talk back. She scoffed and continued, "Liang Wanjun, that bitch couldn't even defeat me, and you two bastards still want to try to fight me, huh? How naive." In the next second, there was a resounding slap. Yi Wanwan used all her force and landed a slap on Liang Meixian's face. Liang Meixian's head tilted to the side from the tight slap. She was in disbelief and returned to her senses only after a long while. She held her face, which was imprinted with 5 distinct finger marks, and she screeched, "Little bitch, you hit me. You actually hit me." Slapped, Yi Wanwan didn't even think twice and waved her palm once again, giving her another slap. Then she straightened her sleeves and lifted her eyes. "Yes, I hit you. So what?" This slap was even harder, and Liang Meixian's face started to swell with a burning sensation. Liang Meixian was completely stunned by these two unexpected slaps in a row. Yimu Fan stood rooted to the ground in a daze. Seeing his younger sister's aggression and rampant expression, he couldn't return to his senses at all. I thought we agreed to restrain ourselves. Mom Yi walked over. When she saw the finger marks on Liang Meixian's face, she cried out, Wanwan, what are you doing? How could you hit her? Shortly after, Yi Shaoan walked over as well. Little bitch, are you trying to revolt? The commotion caught the attention of the two elderly very quickly as Yi Hongwei and Tanny Lan started walking towards them. Liang Meixian held her red and swollen face as darkness shrouded her eyes. Yi Wanwan, you'll see how you're going to die this time. What's going on? The two elderly walked over. Liang Meixian had already prepared her complaints. However, just a second before the two elderly walked past the flowering shrubs and reached them, Yi Wanwan suddenly took a step forward and her body tilted as she fell onto Liang Meixian's feet. Before she fell, her fingers hooked onto the beaded jade bracelet that Liang Meixian had put on her wrist as an act earlier. She pulled it off and threw it on the ground. Liang Meixian hadn't reacted to what happened. Yi Wanwan, seeing that Yi Wanwan had fallen all of a sudden, Yimu Fan was taken aback. He leaped up and went over immediately. Yi Wanwan grabbed hold of Yimu Fan's hand and gave him a subtle squeeze on his hand. Yimu Fan was dumbfounded. She's acting? Yi Hongwei and Tanny Lan had just arrived when they saw Yi Wanwan on the ground and immediately walked past Liang Meixian as they rushed to Yi Wanwan. What happened here? Wanwan, what happened? Yi Wanwan's eyes reddened. Grandpa, Grandma, I'm fine. I'm fine. This has nothing to do with second aunt. I fell down myself by accident. Hearing what Yi Wanwan said, the two elderly turned to Liang Meixian. Your second aunt pushed you? Liang Meixian panicked. Dad, Mom, how could I possibly? Yi Hongwei said sternly, what's the rush? Let Wanwan speak first. Yi Wanwan looked like she was deeply hurt. Just now, I was strolling around the little garden when I heard second aunt and Yi Jie talking. They said, what did they say? Yi Hongwei probed urgently. Yi Wanwan pursed her lips. Second aunt called Gigi and I little bastards. She said we're not a threat to Yi Jie's position at all. She also said that she has the final say in this family. She won't allow us to return home. We will never be able to return home in our lifetimes. Grandpa, Grandma, Gigi, and I really don't want to compete with Yi Jie for anything. We only came back because we miss Grandpa and Grandma. Why did second and have to say these things? Chapter 802. Simply out of this world, Yi Wanwan started sobbing. Second aunt, she even threw the bracelet I gave her just now and said she disliked such cheap things and felt disgusted wearing it. I specifically bought it for her using an entire month's salary, so I was really mad and confronted her, but in the end, she pushed me. Wretch, you're making this up. Liang Meixian was furious. She hurriedly turned to the two elderly and explained, Dad, Mom, how could that be? I didn't push her at all. She was the one who slapped me twice. Tears started rolling down Yi Wanwan's cheeks. Second aunt, you've got to speak with a conscience. If you didn't go overboard with your words, if you didn't say Grandpa and Grandma would die someday, why would I be so mad that I hit you? Also, if you didn't push me, then did I push myself to the ground? If you're not the one who threw that bracelet, then was I the one who pulled it off your wrist and threw it on the ground? Second aunt, you're being a big bully. Liang Meixian was dumbfounded. Her eyes widened, and she nearly vomited blood from anger. She did fall over herself, and she was the one who pulled the bracelet off my wrist then threw it on the ground. Okay. She only called them little bastards. Yet Yi Wanwan came up with so many other stories and drove a wedge between her and the two elderly with every word. The two elderly didn't quite believe what Yi Wanwan said at first, but listening up to this point and seeing the beads of jade scattered all over the floor, they were already 70% convinced. If it was the Yi Wanwan from her previous life, the two elderly would never have believed a word, but Yi Wanwan's performance had been pretty good lately, and they were very satisfied with her tonight. So her words were more credible. Yi Hongwei looked at Liang Meixian sternly. These past few years, the extended family had indeed held quite a lot of power and was becoming very arrogant, like no one else mattered. I'm not dead yet, eh? How could she say she's the one who calls the shots in the house? Who gave her this authority? Although the extended family would inherit this household sooner or later, Yi Hongwei was still upset. Dad, Mom, don't believe anything this wretch said. This wretch is trying to drag me down. I swear I never said those words. That's right. Grandpa, Grandma, I can attest to that. Yi Yi hurriedly chimed in. Yi Wanwan wiped her tears and stood up. She bent over and picked up the beads of jade on the floor one by one. Yi Wanwan didn't attempt an explanation at all. Instead, she said, Grandma, Grandma, I'm sorry. I caused trouble for all of you again. I thought this was my home, and I was trying really hard to change to fit in with this family. I even let go of the love of my life. But now, I guess I was wrong. Goo, let's go. Ah? Oh, when Yi Wanwan called him, Yi Mu Fan finally returned to his senses and followed his sister in a daze. Once they left the old residence, the moment they got into the car, Yi Wanwan bounced back to her languid and casual attitude as if that little pitiful girl, who suffered and was bullied, was simply from Yi Mu Fan's imagination. Yi Mu Fan gulped. Damn, I thought I was a great actor and was immeasurably satisfied with my performance last time. But after watching yours, I finally know the level of acting skills a movie queen has. It's simply out of this world. I was stunned and wasn't mentally prepared at all. You should have at least given me a warning, eh? Yi Wanwan tossed the beads of jade in her palm and said indifferently, I was just letting them have a taste of their own medicine. This mother and daughter duo love acting, right? We shall see who's the better actor, then. Yi Mu Fan was irritated. Are you kidding me? You guys just came back from holiday and are still sticking to each other every single day. Don't you find it a bore? Yi Wanwan scoffed. Single dogs like you won't get it. The fact was that she and Si Yi Han hadn't actually returned from a trip together since she went to Myanmar alone. As the saying went, absence makes the heart grow fonder. She left quite abruptly last night, so naturally, she had to make up for it tonight. Damn. Yi Mu Fan felt stabbed in the heart. He didn't think he would actually live to see this day when someone would call him a single dog. Yi Mu Fan was about to leave when Yi Wanwan turned and stopped him. Ah, wait, gee. I heard that someone gave you a nice bottle of wine? Lately, things were going smoothly and they even managed to abuse Liang Meixian today. She was in a good mood and had a sudden urge to drink a little alcohol, just like how she suddenly wanted to eat almond cakes. Yi Mu Fan looked at her, confused. Yes, someone gave me a bottle of Romanicani. What are you thinking? Chapter 804. I have you by my side, Yi Wanwan grinned. Go, give it to me. Yi Mu Fan frowned. What do you want it for? Yi Wanwan. I'm drinking it. Yi Mu Fan stared at her, alarmed. Yi Wanwan. Don't try to bluff. Are you planning to get that wild man drunk so he's easier to tackle? Yi Wanwan. Goo. You're seriously overthinking. Really? Do I look like such a beast? Alas, Yi Wanwan still snatched that bottle of red wine from Yi Mu Fan, then happily hummed on her way back to Jean Garden. Baby, I'm home. Si Yi Han was sitting on the sofa in the living room with a chessboard laid out on the coffee table. Upon hearing her voice, he placed a chess piece down lightly and lifted his gaze, looking towards her. Yi Wanwan changed her shoes while exclaiming excitedly, Hee hee, darling, let me tell you something. I acted like a little white flower with a bitter fate and pissed Liang Meixian and Yi off so badly this evening. I think the Oscars owes me a little golden man. She rambled away when Si Yi Han caught sight of something in her hands. What's that you're holding? Yi Wanwan suddenly felt a little guilty. It's wine. Si Han knitted his brows. Of course he knew it was wine. Yuan skipped over and coaxed him. Don't frown, things went so smoothly for my first task in the company. Shouldn't we at least drink and celebrate? Si Han's expression was cold. There was no room for negotiation as he said, "The contract?" Yuan replied, "Fine, fine, fine. I know the contract stated I'm not allowed to drink, but I'm in a good mood and really want to drink a little. I swear I'll only drink a little." Si Han's mind didn't change at all. "No way." Yuan skipped over again and sat closer to him. "Aju, you're not letting me drink because I have a low tolerance, or because you're worried I won't be safe after I get drunk? No matter what the reason is, I'm with you right now and I have you by my side. What's the matter with drinking just a bit?" Si Han, "Just a little." Yuan, "I love you the most." Si Han pinched his brows, probably because she was breaking the rules. He seemed slightly vexed. "Wait." Si Han grabbed his phone and called Sui. After Sui received the summons, he rushed over immediately. "Ninth Master, what can I do for you?" Si Han said coldly, "Tonight, make sure that all the maids, security guards and dark team guards in Jean Garden do not walk around, including yourself." Upon seeing how serious Si Han looked, Sui was instantly on guard. "Ninth Master, did something happen?" Si Han, "How am I going to explain this?" Before Si Han could reply, Yuan whined, "I'm just going to drink a little wine. Why do you have to forbid everyone from moving around? Is there a relationship between these two things?" When Sui heard what Yuan said, he was stunned and his face turned green. "Miss Wan, you're going to drink?" Upon seeing Suyi's exaggerated reaction, Yuan was confused. "Yep, I'm going to drink a little wine at home to celebrate." "What's wrong? Why is he reacting this way?" "Ninth Master, I'll get it done straight away." Sui disappeared without a trace. Once he left the room, Sui started to call up every single department. "Hello, hello, hello, Captain Fong, 11, tell everyone right now that nobody is allowed to appear tonight." "No, no, no, nothing happened in Jean Garden. This is for everyone's personal safety." Chapter 805. Life is too beautiful. Within a short while, the entire Jean Garden was silent without a sound to be heard at all. Yuan thought Si Han wanted to have some alone time with her and didn't want anyone to interrupt them, so she didn't think much of it and happily brought over 2 glasses of red wine. The glass she gave to Si Han was filled with milk, while the one for herself was filled with red wine. Yuan raised her glass. "Cheers." Upon seeing that his cup was filled with milk, Yuan warned him sternly. "Dr. Sun said you're not allowed to drink wine, so you should just stick to milk. It's healthier." If it wasn't for Si Han's health, she would really want to get him drunk. This guy was usually too proper, and she didn't know what was on his mind at all. She was really curious what he would be like when he was drunk. Si Han took a sip of his milk, then gave Yuan a slice of bacon. The kitchen had already prepared an exquisite meal, and since Yuan hadn't eaten much at the old residence, she savored sipping her wine and enjoying the delicacies with a beautiful companion by her side. She felt that life was simply too beautiful. Why did I make myself suffer so much in my previous life? Although she was still in a crisis after she was reborn, she could now live freely and without restraint. She was very content with this already. Yuan rubbed her chin and swirled her glass of red wine. "Agio, can I ask you a question?" Si Han, "What is it?" Yuan, I want to know. I want to know why you had to imprison me. Is it just because I rebelled and escaped?" When she recalled things that happened in her previous life and that assassination, she speculated that Si Han imprisoned her as a form of protection. "Never mind. Nothing much." Alas, Yuan didn't ask the question. She was living this life right now, and she wasn't in the past anymore. Everything had changed. Si Han hadn't imprisoned her again, and she was no longer meat on the chopping board waiting to be slaughtered. She would protect the people around her and also protect herself. Enjoy all the pleasures life has to offer. The golden cup should be filled with wine accompanied by the moonlight. As he watched Yuan finishing one glass after another, Si Han held her arm. You're drinking too much. Yuanwan hugged the wine bottle and didn't let go. Yeah, right. I've only had 3 glasses, all right? Don't be so stingy, yeah. Si Han somewhat regretted agreeing to this, but he seemed to have recalled something and a hint of hesitation appeared in his eyes. While Si Han was hesitating, Yuanwan took the chance to pour herself another glass. Yuanwan leaned on the table and requested with sparkling eyes, Agio, I want to have some boiled shelled peanuts. It's the best snack to go with wine. Si Han stood up and was about to head to the kitchen to prepare the peanuts when he turned around, worried. Don't drink too much. Yuanwan nodded her head nonstop. Got it. The moment Si Han placed one foot forward, Yuanwan started gulping down many glasses. Damn, it's really not easy to have a good drink. Shortly after, she finished almost half the bottle. Yuanwan was feeling all right initially, but gradually, the booze worked its way up and she started feeling dizzy. After waiting for some time, Si Han hadn't returned, so she went downstairs to find him, swaying from side to side. Where's the door? Where's the door? Huh? Yuanwan was looking for the door in her drunken state and went in the opposite direction towards the windows instead. Yuanwan pushed open the windows, then looked down. Oh, so it's here. Why's this doorstep so high up? In the next second, she leaped and jumped straight out the window from the second story with her nimble body. Chapter 806. Let's sleep together, all right? In the deepest part of the little grove in Jean Garden, the dark team guards, who were on duty, were struggling as they crouched together to take refuge. Captain, when can we return? Feng Xian scratched his head. I don't know either, 11 sighed. I think we need to wait till at least tomorrow morning when Miss Wanwan is completely sober. The others nodded and agreed. For our safety, we should stay out here longer. Miss Wanwan is terrifying when she gets drunk and wild. Furthermore, Yuanwan had undergone special training and her skills would definitely have advanced to another level compared to that time at the bar. I don't ever want to fight with the drunken Miss Wanwan again. The garden and courtyard of Jean Garden were extremely huge. For the drunk Yuanwan, it was just like a maze. Probably because she had a bit of wine. She felt warm all over and her fists were itching. She really wanted to find someone to fight with. However, she had been walking around for a long time, yet she couldn't even find a shadow. Yuanwan was getting frustrated. Annoying. Why isn't there anyone here? Yuanwan was walking around, intoxicated. Suddenly, she saw a big ball of silvery white hair under the tree. That is. Yuanwan was instantly attracted to the silvery white and fluffy object that her eyes lit up immediately. She skipped towards the big tree and jogged over swiftly. After she got closer, all she saw was a big white tiger with silvery white hair lying under the big tree, sleeping. The white tiger looked sleek and shiny. His big head was resting against his meaty paws, and the tips of his ears would twitch a little from time to time. He slowly opened his eyes, probably because he sensed someone nearby, and he revealed a pair of pale blue pupils, cold and vigilant. Once the great white tiger saw Yuanwan, he laid back to rest once again, uninterested. Wah, great white, great white, great white. When did you come back? I missed you so much. Probably because she had too much to drink and forgot about her fears. Yuanwan pounced onto the white tiger like an arrow, then poof, she buried her entire head into the white tiger's soft fur and rubbed her face against it, absolutely unrestrained. At the same time, in the house, Si Han went upstairs with the peanuts, but in the end, the room was empty. Yuanwan wasn't there, and the window was wide open. Darn it. Si Han's expression changed in an instant. Knew I shouldn't have lowered my guard around her at all. Si Han hurriedly rushed downstairs to look for her. In the end, he looked all around the courtyard and couldn't find her. He had no clue where she went either. Just as he was panicking, he could hear Slaughter's roar from the little garden. Roar, Slaughter's roaring. Si Han hurriedly ran in the direction of the sound and went around the shrubs. Then he finally saw Slaughter being hugged by Yuan, and she was rubbing his fur continuously. In just a moment, Slaughter's sleek and smooth hair was a mess from all the touching and rubbing, and he looked like he was on the verge of swallowing her up. Roar, dumb humans. Can't you see what your woman is doing? I'm completely defiled. Yuan rolled around on Great White's body. Ah, Great White, you're so soft, so comfy. Great White, let's sleep together tonight. All right? Sihan looked at the scene in front of him, and he was about to break down. He had given everyone the heads up, but forgot there was still a white tiger on the loose. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.